Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good morning. Welcome to ExPat InSights. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. Here at ExPat InSights, we take external views of the internal successes by foreigners, expats, and immigrants who have made Philippines their home and are doing good in Philippines, either in business or society. This morning, we have two guests. One's a young lady, a young mother, French-American by birth, and the second person has been on this show before, Brian Lane of Asian Tigers, and we are together. All three of us are going to talk about work-life resilience. The reason Sylvia, my first guest, Sylvia Aguilar, married to a Filipino mother of 6. The reason she's here because not only is she a mother of 6, but she's changed a lot of cultures, and she is a results coach, and she is a sort of an expert on resilience. So let's welcome Sylvia Aguilar.
Good morning, Raju.
So Sylvia, let's start with the big one first. 6 kids.
Yes, it's a handful for sure.
More than a handful, it's 2 armfuls, huh?
Yeah.
Good. And how many years in the Philippines, Sylvia?
I've been in the Philippines about 7.5 years now.
Wow.
7 action-packed, exciting years.
Wow. And what's been the most exciting moment in the Philippines for you?
I think marrying my Filipino husband.
Oh, there, she has a Filipino husband, no?
Yeah.
Chris Aguilar, right? And you are a results coach.
I am, yes. I work with private professionals. I also work with small to medium business owners, helping to develop their leadership teams, grow their revenue, and develop their personal mastery.
So, yeah, personal mastery, that is it. But how different is that from life and executive coaching?
I don't think you can really separate the two, you know. It's an integrated thing. I like to use a holistic approach. Whatever's going on in your work life, you're likely to carry into your personal life and vice versa. So I think you've got to work on everything altogether.
Wow. And what has been your most successful candidate, client? What's a quick story without naming names? Yeah.
Okay. The owner of a small research agency that was on the verge of bankruptcy last year.
Metro Manila?
Metro Manila, locally based. When she started working with me, she didn't know whether she was going to fold up her company, have to fire all her employees.
Filipino?
She's Filipino, yes.
Yeah.
She has a small research agency from about 3 years ago. And she went from being, at that point, to finding clarity, new direction, and increasing her business revenue by 500% in 9 months.
Regardless of external circumstances, regardless of how the environment around her was changing.
Well, that's what resilience is all about, isn't it? It's just taking what comes at you, viewing life as it's a game, it's a challenge, let's get up and keep playing.
So quickly, what did you do to give her new direction, give her new motivation?
Well, we started by looking at where she wanted to go with the company. What was her dream? What was her compelling vision of the future? And then looking at, okay, that's the goal. Where am I right now? What's going on in real life? And the reality check was kind of depressing, to be honest. That's where the resilience came in. She just had to really say, okay, I'm going to do this, get her team together. And we started on a journey of coaching, leadership development, and by and by, she started getting her results.
Gosh, and you find this fulfilling for yourself?
I love it. It's my passion. I feel like I'm in my element. I'm in my flow when I'm coaching.
And besides the 7.5 years in the Philippines, how many years altogether have you put into this discipline, this profession?
Coaching has been about 5 years, but my background is crisis counseling, so I'd say 15 years altogether, working on helping people, change people's lives, make things better.
So tell us now, resilience. Let's narrow in on that. No, what is it? I mean, how is it any different from just surviving?
I think resilience is having the courage to get back up again. That's the difference. You know, anyone can go out and be committed, dedicated, excited with a challenge. Resilience is about when you get knocked down and you say, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to get back up and keep trying. That's what resilience is to me. So
a good population can't do that. or
Yeah.
they don't know how to do that. They can't do it or they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, which of the two?
Which
they
of the
don't know
two?
how or they can't.
Well, I think that nothing succeeds like success. So if you've experienced a failure, you get back up and you're successful, it gives you something to stand on the next time you run into trouble. But if you just get stuck, if you just stay down there, then I guess those kind of people will never experience
So what
it's like.
differentiates a human being who can get up again from the one who can't? What are their characteristics? What's their nature? What do they employ within their own self to get up?
What I've seen in my clients, it's having a clear goal and having a definite life purpose. Why am I here? What am I meant to be doing? Who am I supposed to be helping, influencing? And that becomes like the motivating factor. That's the driving passion that when you get knocked around by life, you can't give up. You can't afford to give up. I mean, like me with my 6 kids. I've got to be an example to them of succeeding in the world, of getting back up, keeping on trying, you know, of doing the best I can with what I've got.
Wow.
And that's one of my main motivations.
Wait, you're giving me 2 examples. One of this Filipina research person and
Yeah.
you yourself, no? So you know your purpose and she probably got helped by you. Helped is not the right word. Maybe you guided her into finding clarity. How exactly do you go about imparting this strength of resilience to others? What's your technique?
My technique, I think it has to come from them. It has to come from within. There isn't anything that I can really do. But what I do with my clients, I get them to focus on what they really want. And when you know what you want,
Yeah.
it becomes easy to just go for it. Do you know what I mean?
So how do you go about it? What are your steps?
Okay,
then?
what are my steps?
Say, for example, I don't have clarity. I really don't know. I'm busy. Things are kind of getting heavy on my head. How do you go about telling me, Raju, that you can and you have it in you?
Okay. First of all, I'll ask you a set of questions in about 6 or 7 categories of your life so that you get a big, well-rounded picture of not just your professional life, but your personal life, your emotions, your relationships. So kind of, you know, building a big picture of your future. I'll ask you, what do you want? What's getting in the way of that? What will you feel like? What will it mean to you to achieve that success?
Mm-hmm.
And from those answers, I create a vision statement. And I get my clients to read this vision statement every day. And
Do I give you the truthful answers or do I give you answers that feel right? I mean, do people, not me.
Do people? Well, they usually give the first answer that comes to their head, and that's the role of the coach, is to surface what's really going on inside, what's really at the bottom of it, what's the real motivation, the reason why they want something. And then we build on that.
And how long does this process?
The process take? Well, the visioning process is a couple hours, and they read it daily, but then the hard work comes in with their action steps. After they've got this vision statement to inspire them, then they have to create an action plan. Then they start identifying the roadblocks, limiting beliefs, real challenges, you know, things happening in real time being thrown at them. That's when the resilience comes in.
And you're in your case, mother of 6 and traveled across the world and living in a culture that's not really your own, right? So you're French-American.
Yeah.
Tell me a story about your life. Tell me an incident where you realized that, hey, I don't have clarity, I need to get clarity, and I need to work through this process or procedure.
Gosh, that's a surprise question. Okay. Well, I think a turning point for me was when I was a young woman in Africa, newly married. I had 2 children, and my husband and I wanted to set up a center to make artificial prosthesis for amputees. That was why we were there. And we had no end of trouble. I mean, the government threw everything at us. It was such a struggle. We had to fight for about 2 years to get that thing up and running. And in that time, I really struggled with, is this for me? Am I meant to just work and help and serve others, or should I just be looking out for myself? I've got 2 kids already and expected, you know, that we would have more. But I think the fulfillment of helping other people made me realize it's worth it. It was worth all the obstacles. It was worth all the money.
Why would you want to do it in the first place? What was your reason to set up that center?
Well, my father was a social worker, so I guess it was ingrained in me from a
So
very young age.
Right, okay, and then?
So it was something I always wanted to do. I grew up in Japan. I wanted to move to Africa. I have roots, my grandparents, great-grandparents. And so, but we made it. We made it, and I ended up spending 8 amazing years in East Africa.
And the center still lives?
The center folded, I think, about 2 years ago, but we did a good job there for a good number of years.
So 8 years, 2 years struggling to get clarity, getting it started, and
I wouldn't say the whole time was struggling to get clarity, struggling to get set up, at which time a lot of doubts and questions would, come into the picture for me. Was I doing the right thing?
So in your case, you had doubt and you had lack of clarity, and so did this person with the research person. What is that one big thing that stands in people's way of becoming or doing what they want? Is there something that you've discovered and said, this is usually the problem?
It's usually fear. It's fear of failure. Fear of failure, because if I ask my clients, if there were no obstacles, if you could accomplish anything you wanted, what would you achieve? Their dreams are beautiful, they're huge, they're impressive.
Yeah.
But fear immediately shuts down all those possibilities. So I find that many of my clients, myself sometimes included, live in this world of very limited possibility, and we're gripped by fear. Fear and remorse over the past, getting stuck.
Wow.
Getting stuck in some lousy experience and not being able to move forward. I think those are the two biggest.
I would like to agree to that. I would truly like to agree to that.
That's
I mean,
what
I've sensed it in myself many times that, hey, I'm still living back in 1987
Yeah.
or 84, no? So how do I get rid of that? How do I come to the present and say, all right, past is past and the future lies ahead of me?
Well, for that, there's lots of different ways. One thing that I like to do is look at what is realistically stopping me. So I get very real with the data, what's going on. And when my client can see the data, they realize, gosh, it's really in my head. It's a mind game. It's mind over matter. That's where I think the shift begins. And then also connecting it with their personal purpose. You've got to want your goal badly enough. If you really want it, you're willing to step outside your comfort zone. You're willing to overcome those mind games.
So there you go. Now, so you're saying, all right, that's cleared. I'm here and I see the future. But in the process of reaching from where I am to where I want to go, doesn't matter whether I've let go of my past or I'm not afraid anymore. Do the doubts come back?
Absolutely.
Do the fears come back?
Yeah.
And so what is any rule of thumb or any way of getting back? That is resilience, I would assume,
Yes, it
no?
is, yeah.
But how do you get back on board? How do you
Yeah.
get back on the horse again?
Well, that's why I like to use the vision statement as a touchstone. It's going back to what the client really wants, what's important to them, and then realizing that the obstacles will always come. For myself personally, I like the metaphor of the game. I like to view life as a game, because otherwise I take things so seriously. All these challenges are coming, I've failed, I'm embarrassed, I'm humiliated, whatever, I can't get up and keep going. But if life is a game, it should be fun, it should be exciting. One of my favorite quotes is a Michael Jordan quote about how he's missed over, 19,000 shots in his life.
Yeah.
And 26 times he was supposed to take the game shot and missed. He single-handedly lost the game for his team 26 times. And
Wow.
lost some 300 games. And he says that's why he succeeds, because he's not afraid to fail. So
that's
that
profound.
works for me. And I think it works for my clients too.
So today, mother of 6 and wife to one.
Definitely.
And where are you going? Where are you going?
Where am I going? Gosh, personally,
You got a whole-
professionally?
Both, and you just said that there's
Yeah.
hardly any difference between the two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well,
You did say that.
I did say that. Well, I said that one bleeds over into the other. And if
Yeah.
something is holding someone back in their professional life, it's likely holding them back in their personal lives as well. For me, where am I going? Well, of course, I have a big vision for my children's future. I
Yeah.
want to raise wonderful, loving, caring, moral, generous children. And professionally, I'm looking to continue growing my coaching practice, work with more companies, build a stable future.
Anything that will make you get off the horse, fall off the horse and say, well, here's my doubts again, no? Is it a good idea to look forward to failure, or is that not a good idea?
I don't know if I'd say look forward, but definitely expect it. It will
Yeah.
come. It does come. But for me, I can't see myself doing anything else. I mean, it's just such a thrill to be a part of someone else's success, part of someone else's lives, be building connections all over the world.
And how old is the oldest and the youngest?
My oldest is nearly 15, and my baby is 2.
Wow.
So I got a long road, a long journey ahead of me.
And you now in this new culture of Philippines, I mean, you're a global kind of a person, no? Any challenges, or it's all hunky-dory with Philippines? Tell me, what do you like about this country?
I like the openness and the warmth. I really love that. And I think that they're very compassionate and family-oriented, which is something that you see kind of being lost in Western cultures. There's a selflessness about the Filipino
Right.
as an individual and a culture that I really love. And, you know, there are challenges too. What works for me most of the time is just trying to have a pluralistic viewpoint. You know, my way is a good way and it works for me, but there are other ways. And, you know, culture's
So you're
built by,
open-minded about
it's
it.
what works for them, that's why they're doing it. So trying to be compassionate and, you know.
And you aim to grow your little kids into this country, growing up Filipino way?
Well,
Filipinos?
they'll definitely finish their education here, and then it's up to them.
Great. So I think I get the message and the idea on resilience. You know, it's like finding clarity. It's coming back. It's not being afraid of the future and letting go of troublesome past, traumas from the past. That's where you will tend to get up. You will fall, but you can pop back on the horse again. Your tips for people of your age, your background, mothers of 6, which might be very few out there in the world, no? Who are coaches and mothers at the same time. What are your recommendations?
My recommendations, wow. I would say, first of all, remember to take care of yourself. You know, take your me time. For women, being able to focus on ourselves, because we are selfless, we're busy, we're giving. We need to pay that attention to ourselves.
So what portion of your day do you give to yourself, or what portion of the year?
Well, I'm a marathoner, Raju.
Okay.
I'm a marathoner, so, you know, training takes time. That's, you know, an hour, 2 hours running during the week, sometimes 3 hours on the weekend. So I would say I give that to myself. Also taking time to learn, to grow. So for my own personal growth and development, that means reading, that means meditation, quiet times for myself. My tips
That's your first step. Look after yourself.
Yeah.
And then?
And I would also say, remember to acknowledge yourself for the good you're doing and acknowledge people around you. Because, you know, positive thinking, appreciation, gratitude, all those things, I think, just lift our spirits, raise our energy, and give us more inspiration and power to do the things we need to do.
Does that mean you never get mad at your kids or your
Are you
hubby?
kidding me?
If you do, then how do you manage the anger? Or what do you do with the anger? How do you hand it out?
Well, my house is a circus a lot of the time. To be quite frank, I don't know that I handle it that well. I have 2 mottos that I use in my home. One is create the win-win. Look for the win-win. So when there's a blow up, what do you want? What do you need? What do I want? What do I need? How can we negotiate? That's number 1. My second one is I pick my battles. I cannot win them all. I can't have a perfectly cooked meal, spotless house, satisfied clients, all 6 children done with their homework and dressed in fine linen. No, it's not realistic.
And your 15-year-old, the eldest, who is a teenager,
yes,
and your hubby, do they understand, and do they also play the same game? Do they learn from you?
The win-win, gosh, it's kind of 50-50.
Okay, so that's 2 tips. Any more?
Any more? I think another one for me is staying connected with my husband. I think it's important to have that support and work as a team.
Right,
because, you know, it's tough when you're doing it alone.
You need an emotional reflection. You need somebody to support you. Great. Sylvia Aguilar, thank you very much. Results coach Sylvia Aguilar, thank you very much for being on ExPat InSights.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to announce your website or how people should reach you for your consulting, now's your time, and that's your camera.
Okay, well, you can find me on Facebook or on LinkedIn, Sylvia Aguilar, and I'd be happy if you get in touch with me. Thanks a lot.
Marami pong salamat.
Thank
you
you.
very much,
Thanks,
Ms. Sylvia
Raju.
Aguilar. So that was Sylvia Aguilar, results coach, and she has no company, right? You work independently. Sylvia Aguilar, and right after the break, we'll take a break and we'll come back and talk to Mr. Brian Lane of Asian Tigers, who's not just resilient, but who's made a major comeback in life. Stay watching. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan, and this is ExPat InSights.